Now, the blueberry cinnamon rolls at Bojangles are pretty damn good, though. They're like that with a chicken biscuit or a pork chop biscuit. That's pretty solid.
Whew.
See, Gov, the car's already started for you. I put a car on it because I knew you were going to just start off hot with some kind of nonsense. But seriously, though, that's the fun of these kind of shows. And people will say, well, what's the difference between your show and someone else's? And it's the fact that I build this podcast for the kind of content that I feel like I would want to listen to. So that's what it is. It's for people I trust, for people I like, having fun, enjoying it, and we're presenting it to you. I think that's at the core, that's what a podcast should be. I actually have some visuals, though, for tonight where we are basically talking about this kind of like new look in the NFL, this new look in the UFL, what it means. We saw some rules that may be adjusted to the NFL based on the UFL. We've seen, how would I say, golf take on some interesting angles and gambling that Pat Mayo will talk about in one of the other topics if we need to. Of course, we're going to build a lineup. But at this point in the year, you'll see it kind of correlates with some of the topics as well. It's a lot of times people get caught up in this idea that like, oh, there has to be a right and wrong way to do it. And I don't know if there is. I could say there's some things we shouldn't do, right? Like at this point in the UFL, you should really pay attention to injury reports because it's amazing what people are doing with the injury report itself, honestly, because people are honestly resting their starters as if they're injured, even though they're not. It's totally time management and very peculiar, I have to be honest. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, but apparently the Battlehawks, for example, thought that A.J. McCarron was just better off going on a vacation or just a non-active compete, and they were just going to leave him off the roster completely, even though he's healthy. I didn't understand that. Like, at least have him suit up, no? That just seemed odd to me.
I don't know.
I mean,
McCarron's one of the guys who legitimately could be like having a shot at sorry. Like he we all know he could be on an NFL roster.
Right.
So like he's the guy like, okay, if their team wants to try something new for the future, now is when you probably say, hey, good time to step away, go talk to other teams, whatever you got to do. Like, for all we know, he'll be backing up Kyler Murray in Arizona before the end of the year.
Well, they basically said it was like a playoff prep situation. Like, it was like, hey, you're healthy now. Let's keep you healthy. We already know what we got in you. We want to see if we can introduce another element to this offense, which I totally get. But to Evan's point when he was here, by the way, welcome back, Evan. You were traveling before. It's good to have you. You are real. You are moving. You're back with us. But you said it, in the first couple of weeks when you were talking about the UFL, and you said, this would be the time to experiment with a rushing quarterback with, different quarterback options to find out which one's better. It seems kind of counterintuitive to like put your best quarterback on the shelf, because what happens if there's an emergency situation? Are you just punting away that game? Like, I don't know. It almost seems like tanking, but like for the good teams because you're in the playoff. I don't know. Maybe they're doing it right.
Well, it's I know that McCarron's sitting, and I think that makes plenty of sense. I don't know why
again, right?
He is sitting again. That's what the reports are saying. Yes, but he will be with the team. He's just not going to play.
He's listed as the second stringer for Week 9.
Okay, but
I'm shocked he is playing right now. There is nothing he has to play for. They've locked everything up. Get Corral a little bit, just a little bit of reps just in case, I would think.
Well, that's why I don't want to play him myself in the personal lineup. I mean, you guys can obviously convince me. That's the whole point, is we're going to walk through this in real time. I don't know if I'd want to play Martinez because the ownership will be crazy. And if they do get up, I could see them resting for sure. I mean, it only makes sense, but I guess in this league, maybe the opposite makes sense. I really do kind of feel topsy-turvy about some of these deployment options.
I would imagine Manny Wilkins is going to be awfully chalky this week too, because he's only for 9,000.
I agree. And they already mentioned that Houston will be starting a new quarterback as well. I think Henderson is starting for Houston.
Yes. Yeah. So and yeah, last week he completed 9 of 14 for 97 yards. That's pretty good against Birmingham.
So now that we gave you the synopsis, why don't we get into the first topic? Because I've been teasing this one for Gov for a while. He actually made a very under the radar. I say we because he's a Panthers fan. He likes to associate that way. But they've made a very unique hire where they actually leaned into the analytics side of it, hiring a former PFF member who I'm trying to think of the service. Is it the forecast, I believe, or I should say the analytical forecasting of the whole model system was made by Eric Eager. So I'm going to just go ahead and play it now, and then we'll talk about it in just a minute. And of course, I forgot there's a bit of a delay here, but yeah. So Eric Eager, he's going to talk about them hiring Eric Eager, who basically was their analytics guy at PFF. And actually, I thought I started this, but I did not. So let me start it now.
Relationships with people like Eric now that they have a position in the NFL? Does that change your interest level as a fan? Does it give you validation or pride, etc.? Not much on the validation or pride aspect, I wouldn't say. I mean, I do know quite a few people in the NFL in different areas. It's always interesting to see like how much or how little influence they have on what's going on, mostly the latter. And I probably do give a little bit too much credit to certain teams, maybe even the Jaguars, because I know some people at the Jaguars, for what they're doing. When I see them making a smart move, I might attribute it more to the people that they have and the fact that I like the people that they have, versus it could have just been a random good move amongst bad moves, which are generally coming. So it will just be most interesting for me seeing Eric with a very strong-minded owner, at least from what we've seen so far, with a front office, which for Scott Fitterer, I mean, he's been there a little while now. I don't know if things don't go well this year. Where is he going to be? He could be gone. Even if who's it? Canales who's the head coach there. Even if he sticks around, he could be gone. So hopefully Eric is part of a structure, maybe similar to what we saw with Paul DePodesta with the Browns, where DePodesta reports directly to the owner outside of the other structure, outside of the GM structure. And I think that would be the way to go, to have because a lot of these things that you're doing for analytics, they have a compounding effect. Like the investment that you're making on tracking data today over the next year is going to have very little effect versus 5 years from now, once you've been doing all that stuff. The difference that it's going to make between year 4 and year 5 and year 6 are going to be huge, the compounding effect there. So you need time for these sorts of positions. And I just hope that he has that more than anything else, is that you can live through multiple front office or coaching regimes and still being there and doing that work in the background. The problem is then that might mean that you're not getting enough say on the decisions that are being made, because if you're getting a lot of say on the decisions that are being made and the decisions don't go well, then you're like the GM and you're fired and you're out of there probably. It's kind of, there's a weird difference there where I'm just never sure whether analytics people can really make that big of a difference unless they are the GM. And even if they are the GM, if they don't have ownership in the right area, can they really make that big of a difference? I don't know. It'll be an interesting experiment. Eric will definitely be able to prove his football loving chops, his bona fides in that degree, because the guy knows everything about every player who's ever played football. So he knows all that stuff. Played tight end in college also.
I didn't do a good job setting that up because I was trying to multitask so much. But yeah, Eric Eager is an analytics expert, I would call him. Used to work for PFF, transitioned to Sumo Sports, and then obviously taking over in the front office. This is Kevin Cole, who, oh man, I don't know. Hold on just a second. Oh, I guess I'm getting tired. I should probably just kick it over to one of you guys.
So, he mentioned the comparison with Paul DePodesta with the Cleveland Browns, and I guess this would be kind of more of a side point than anything else with Eric of PFF, but when Paul DePodesta was with the Oakland Athletics in the 2001 season, they ended up winning more games without their superstars in baseball than they did the prior season in 2000, when they had guys like who was it? I think it was Jason Giambi,
Johnny Damon,
Damon, and then Isringhauser. So, is this data and analytics focus working for in the NFL like the Cleveland Browns? Because it's such a different, complicated game that I would say that the same approach is not working.
Well, that's why I like it though, because he's taking on a different approach. Like I say, Eric Eager is basically a know-it-all. Basically, like analytically, he's proven everything that PFF had, and he's used a gambling perspective to get there, which a lot of people at the time would have been afraid of like 10 years ago. But now it's more acceptable. And so this is the prime time to give a guy a chance, like that, like you see with, player coaches and that kind of thing. I don't know why I was having a brain fog earlier, but I guess I'm back now. But what I was trying to say is like, so he's done all these number things, but he also makes it interesting. I mean, Kevin Cole used to work with him, kind of said it there, that like the guy knows everything, but he is also able to make it applicable. And I think we see that a lot with general managers. It's sometimes they're in the background, sometimes they have a different financial kind of upbringing. Maybe they have more advantages, but what they usually bring in terms of personality and the ability to connect with players will be, is kind of what sets them apart. Now, Eric Eager also played tight end at a lower level college, as he also mentioned. I just kind of like that approach. I mean, we saw it with Jeff Saturday a couple of years ago. It worked. I bring that up on purpose because that was an example where it worked out terribly for the player coach kind of scenario. We saw with Dan Campbell, works out great. And so now we're seeing it in a general manager perspective. But then what was it, like a year or two ago that we saw with Jameson Williams and gambling? And, in the NBA, we saw with the Porter family, what their situation is. Eric Eager, ran PFF gambling podcast show just a couple of years ago. Obviously started his own thing at Sumer Sports, got away from the gambling, but was still pretty heavily invested just a year ago, was openly betting on the Lions and even betting on WNBA. So he's well known in the gambling street. So it's just an interesting kind of acceptance, but I don't know what that means. Like, I think it means a positive, but I've always been positive about gambling.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I brought up the DePodesta example is that the Browns hired him in 2016 as their chief strategy officer, and then he was a big part of that Deshaun Watson trade 2 years ago, and that's been working out fucking terribly ever since. How would this compare with, remind me Eric's last name, PFF, I'm sorry?
Eric Eager.
Yes. I can't talk tonight. Sorry. I'll clean up my... Yeah. What were you going to say, Donnie?
The Watson trade, I still don't think it's a terrible trade. I think the contracts were the part that was terrible and questionable. But at that time...
There's a lot of moves that I think are being made that really, like, the only bad part is the contract. And that's where, the agents are coming into play. Like, they know you're making the right move. We need to get as much out of it as possible.
Let's not forget, there were like 5 teams in those Watson sweepstakes that were willing to give up that same trade package, basically. The issue was money. And the Browns bid on something that it was just too much in general. And now he's not playing to the level that we expected him to be able to play.
What? Yeah, because weren't the Browns not that far before they hired DePodesta? Didn't they go 0-16 not far beforehand?
They went 0-16 and 15, I believe.
Yeah, so they just hired him after that 0-16 season.
Yeah, they tried something new after the worst season in NFL history.
Yeah.
And I mentioned that before. We're going to see that as a theme in all my topics. It's all these topics are trying something new, and it's not working, or it is working.
And if that's the thing, I'm willing to let it see if it works.
Mhm.
Because
We were wrong,
we
by
saw
the way.
them try to bring it into baseball. It did have some numbers. I know there's numbers and metrics in football if you're looking at the right stuff and can actually grade it out from college to pro. It should be helpful, especially if but I do think it requires the team to have a full vision. And I think that was one of the things that held back the Browns, because
it was
the owner always wanted a high fly Browns team. You don't draft Baker Mayfield to run it like the old school Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
Like, that's just sort of the thing that happens.
Mhm.
But you're in Cleveland. The best Cleveland teams have great defense and run the ball. So, like, I understand you want your quarterback, but get where you live and where 8 of your home games are and what your weather's like, and you need to run the ball and play defense really, really well in the winter to be a good team. Just like a lot of those Northeastern teams. A lot of the, like, Baltimore knows it. Pittsburgh knows it. Philly knows it. That's why New England always would just be able to run the ball, because, like, we live in the North. You got to be able to let them run the ball.
Speaking of which, when it comes to being outdoors and stuff, I think it was the Lions that have 14 indoor games this year. That's insane to me.
It is.
I don't even want to hear about the schedule right now. I am so pissed. I am so pissed. They didn't give the Panthers a single primetime game. A single primetime. I'm so upset. I have the only time I get to see them that's not 1 or 4 o'clock is when I have to wake up early in the morning to watch them play the Giants in Germany.
Go.
Donnie, you know the Giants are going to be wearing those jerseys.
Oh,
you know they're going to be wearing
those jerseys.
They're good. That's the German jerseys. That's the German jersey. You know they're wearing them in Germany.
But
so I got to wake up and watch that. That's my what
go.
NFL?
There's nothing they can market. With Carolina, they have no draft pick.
That's not true.
They have no first round pick this year, so it's tough.
I do believe year 2 of Bryce Young will be much better.
It will be better.
We spent $100 million on the offensive line, and all we did with the draft was address the fact that we had aging old weapons that weren't explosive. So what do? Get an explosive running back. Get a good.
The media's out on
Leggett. Honestly, might be just the new Deontay Johnson, but Thielen, Johnson, and Leggett is probably a good 3.
I strongly.
If Mingo develops into anything, you have 4 okay weapons.
Mm-hmm. But Donnie, I have to strongly disagree with you there, because even if the media wants to be out on the talent of Bryce Young, they've already found with the American audience that we like to watch car crashes. People will love to watch like YouTube videos of Karens. Just
here's the thing,
my point
was
like
cheaper to watch all the Panthers games by going to them than actually watching it on cable television.
Not when I live in Florida.
That's different. But if you're local in Carolina, it's cheaper to go to all the home games than to watch it on television.
That's true. And they should go to the games.
There's
and they should
clearly no marketability there.
But, like, my point is, like, when you think about Paul DePodesta, whatever, that dude, when you think about him in Cleveland, like I said, they didn't really have a straight mind. So, like, the owner's making you make decisions that probably aren't fully in best of building this team. But in Carolina, it looks 100% like they're building the team around Bryce Young. They're building it how you should around that guy.
They're doing it the right way.
So, like, I think that bodes well for Eric Eager if he has sort of the same role. Like, he probably can be able to do it a little better because he is going to be Yeah, like they are at least sticking to a plan. They're not flipping the 5-year plan every year and a half.
Bryce Young is not going to be as bad as he was last year, but I
He's
still
got
don't,
more
I
around
still
him.
don't think
He's got
a
more around him. And he's got
starting-level
more
quarterback.
protection. If he has to be better.
Yeah, Well,
But I'm fine
I
with
don't
the
think
slow
he's
scale
awful.
up. I'm fine with the slow scale up. If he's just better next year and then has a breakout third year, that's kind of the plan. And year 3, he'll have a first-round pick.
Then you're in the
To
Justin
go with
Fields
him.
situation.
But
That's the thing. In year 3, he'll get his first-round talent to go with him on the team. Like, I almost want him to look good and us still only win like 5 games, so we have a top 10 pick. So we're like Atlanta or that this year and get like a wide receiver at 7 or 8 to add to him.
or another quarterback that compete like Atlanta did. Look,
Carolina's not that dumb.
no,
Shut up, Tish. Oh.
But anyway, I hope it doesn't come off like I'm directly saying that this is going to be just like hiring Paul DePodesta with the Cleveland Browns, because it's going to be a different situation. The Browns are the fucking Browns, and the Panthers are the Panthers. It's not going to look exactly the same. I don't know a lot about Eric Eager, to be honest, and I don't know if he's going to fit in with the overall vision that the weirdo owner of the Panthers, I forgot his name already. Gov, could you help me out here?
Tepper.
Yeah, David Tepper. I don't know if he's going to fit in with David Tepper's vision. Hopefully it doesn't involve hucking beers at the Jaguar fans.
or
But
we
we have to wait.
No,
to
he's
see.
not. I don't think he's allowed there. Who's he going to huck beers at this year?
Oh yeah, I forgot Con Bandom.
Maybe he'll go to Germany and he'll huck beers at someone.
Huck beers at the Germans? You huck beers at us?
One last hope for Gov. I know he's been paying attention to my Twitter as well. I've openly, publicly said this. I do think that the Panthers will get at least one primetime flex game this year. You got to remember, the Lions were not a primetime candidate when they started to turn around either. They had 0 the year that Dan Campbell finally started to, infuse that culture. So it's not always how you start, it's how you finish. Just like this podcast, I couldn't talk. I think Gov struggled through some words. The only guy who hasn't struggled is Donnie, so he might be hosting this whole show in about 30 minutes, given
Yeah, I mean, I got nothing else going on right now, so I'm pretty much clear mind.
So I don't know how much these guys know about Pat Mayo. I know you do, Gov. I have an interesting golf take and topic 2, just about how ESPN tried a gambling experiment, just like this, a new approach. We're going to try something different. We're going to bring in the gambling community. It went terribly. I can play that now, or we can take a break and build the lineup.
Let's build the lineup here. Let's give the people what they've been wanting.
I was about to say,
sir.
Let's talk some UFL.
Okay, we can definitely do that. And I set this up so it should be an easy transition. So we're there. Now, we've been waiting on quarterback, and unfortunately, Evan has gotten only 1 pick for a couple weeks now. So I'm sure he's going to be excited for the wraparound for that kind of discussion, because now you get to see the roster.
Do you have the random number generator up, Donnie?
I do.
I was on vacation anyway. I was fine. I wasn't
Your
mad about only
picks
getting
were
1 pick.
solid.
Yeah, you did
Coming
give
in.
us good picks.
Like you can't blame you.
I know the first week I was professional, Evan. I made sure to watch it before the show and made sure I didn't step on your toes, because I'm like, Evan's only going to give us 1 pick here. I can't go ahead and pick his guy, first and then leave him with no picks. And then the second week I forgot. I'm like, you know what? We'll just do it live and hope that no one takes his guy. So it actually worked out, but
I wish I could afford to go somewhere new every week. It seemed like my picks were better, just overseas.
They might be.
Yeah, hey, you can say you had the best pick in UFL in that country, probably.
In a country where nobody's ever heard of the fucking UFL.
Hey, a win's a win. Best pick in that country's ever seen.
Hey,
I'll take it.
they probably have a UFL, but it is the other football.
Yeah, I'll have to look that one up.
All right.
So,
numbers?
what are we doing here with the? You already know my number, so
27.
I'll go 6.
In honor of Caitlin Cook, I think she'll get her first win tonight. I'll go 22.
Ooh.
It is 9.
I get to wrap around last.
Oh, the snake.
True. I should have went Matthew Stafford tonight.
Yeah, well,
Right.
we had 1-6, we had 169. You know, it is what it is. I'm going to be boring, I think, and start us out with what is probably the best value on the whole list. Give me the Stallions defense. It's way underpriced, I believe, compared to other defenses this week.
I've never known a guy to get so amped up to take a defense as Donnie. I don't get it. I wish I could say like it's an old man's take, Donnie. Like, oh, it's just like boring conservative take. But I've known older guys, like very old traditional DFS guys, and they still don't get as excited as you do for defense. So
I love me some defense.
I know, but in DFS, I don't get it, man.
It's one of some of the best value on the slate here.
You might be right. Like that's the thing is, like unfortunately, you might be right. I might be wrong. I'm a beholden to my to my convictions as well. It's just such a.
I mean, I don't hate it at all. Like the Stallions are normally 5K. They're normally the most expensive defense. Like this is like, but wow, Donnie, wow, the number 1 overall pick.
Now
You
to be
took
fair,
Harrison Butker. Oh wow.
Oh,
to be fair,
Super Bowl winning, field goal kicking. Like you
I don't want anyone.
Any of them.
I don't want anyone to screw up the defense. So I'm going to put it in. I trust you guys with everything else.
we have been getting a lot of new viewerships, a lot of new followings. Thanks for that, by the way. Like and subscribe as always. Hopefully somebody eventually starts to do that. But don't pick quarterback in case you guys aren't familiar with our setup. We never picked quarterback in the first go-around. So that was a position that was off the board for Donnie. But of all the other positions, including this lineup, which you take more flexes than most DFS lineups, Donnie still takes the defense. It blows my mind.
Now it's yours, Logan. You were number 2.
Logan picks quarterback.
Now, 20 points. If this defense scores 20 points, I'm rubbing it in everyone's face.
No, because
I'd be thrilled. Are you kidding?
So fuck you.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and do it. The best play on the board, in my opinion. Hills is out. I already think Colburn's probably one of the better running backs, anyways.
Very high ownership, I'm assuming. Very high.
I don't really care.
I don't think you can fade this ownership.
He's the only running back available on the roster that plays. Now they have activated somebody else, but that tells you the confidence of DraftKings not even to put his backups available.
Look at his there's last 2 games, 25 touches, 26 touches, and 20 touches before that. Almost 20 points in each of those 2 games. He's the only running back giving that right
Colburn.
now.
Oh boy. I'm fine with this pick. Like
I've already
This is how my personal started out.
Yeah, this is a solid running back play in the week. Definitely, if you're gonna pay up at running back, definitely the way to go. 100%.
I just think it's so safe too. Donnie talked about safety and just like getting the for sure dominance there. They don't even have a backup that we could play. Like there's no Roundtree situation. I mean, I know, like I said, Evan was out, but we were talking about Roundtree. We were going deep last week. I'm like, well, maybe because this. I think it was Marable was out for the Stallions.
Yes.
So it's like maybe Roundtree. I mean, I know they'll bring up somebody, but like right now, even the backup is out. So I like Colburn. He's looked good too. I think he had a 70-yard rush a couple weeks ago.
Funny enough, Roundtree did get 5 points last week.
He did. That's what I'm saying. Like there might be somebody that emerges for Michigan. By the way, I got to invest in some smelling salts because that first 5 minutes I was dead. I thought I was going to have a seizure, and now I'm like really back. I got to get some like Joe Rogan smelling salts or something. But go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Let's see. I'm skimming through because I think we need some value. We've hit we got a little bit of value in that defense that we got out of the way.
You're welcome.
Start for the first time in any lineup builder I've ever done. Well, I'm sorry. So like, see, like, I wish it was as easy as last week when we had Samson Nakua. Although, like,
he came up with shocking.
I wouldn't be even surprised going back to him because Houston's horrible. So I know Michigan's going to play well. And like, even though he didn't get the volume from 7 to 2 targets, he still had a long bomb for 30 yards.
Yeah.
So like, if he gets like, are you telling me like that's kind of what I want in a wide receiver? Like, he's either going deep or he's getting a bunch of targets. Like, it depends on how the game goes. Like, I wouldn't be opposed going back to him, but like, that's a rough one. Like, there's not a glaring value right in my eyes that I trust.
I know I have one.
Well, then the snake might be the way to get value, which means let's see, which one is it? I think, therefore, I am. No, that's a horrible saying. Why would I say that? That just makes me sound ignorant and stupid.
Well,
no, sorry, I'm filibustering like a politician. Am I doing great? Okay,
somewhat.
I just keep wanting to like. Okay, I think I just want to play Ja'Cory Pearson. Honestly, like, let's pay up. Like, of all the wide receivers here to pay up for, like Butler, Kirkland, Demario Davis, and Pearson.
Aitman is back.
I know, I do know that, but like, I still like that. Like, the only other person I would consider, there is a chance, like,
now,
like I said, I think Michigan plays well. You could go Marcus Sims. He was getting some volume. Like, if they have a solid game, and I believe he did have a solid game with a touchdown last time they played Houston. So, like, I could see going him, but I think I just want to play up for Pearson. I think he's going to be the lowest owned. I know he can get the volume. Let's just see what St. Louis does.
So Gov, I like this pick for 2 reasons. One, he's been extremely high priced because he's coming off of that XFL love of just last year always being so dominant. So DraftKings is very scared because they know the talent's there, right? So they're not going to lower him. Even when he was injured for the beginning of the year, they kept his price at what I considered a Christian McCaffrey level, where it's like, we know the moment he comes back, we're not going to give anyone a free square. So then last week, we talked about A.J. McCarron missing because of a precautionary, like, hey, we're just going to like give you a week off. They did the same thing with Pearson, but he's back this week. A.J. is still out. People are still going to look at that 9,000 and be like, he hasn't done nothing this year, which is true. It's just, I don't think there's very many talent profiles as good as Pearson in the league. So I'm perfectly fine playing that. I expect him to be at least eight or under in the ownership. I think this is a great.
Agreed. Like, I do believe, like, of the top guys, this is the ownership play, and I don't mind taking that leverage play. Like, I do think, like you said, if he comes back, even without McCarron, he could end up being security blanket. We've seen him get 10 targets before. So, like, I would not be surprised if he has a solid game.
Well, I joke about it a lot, but I mean, we have it pretty much covered on this podcast. You know, Donnie's our generational gap. He kind of is that young perspective. You know, me and you are kind of the veteran DFS guys in terms of gambling. Evan hasn't really seen Pearson be good. I don't think at all. Like, he's not an NFL name either. He's not like a retread NFL guy. So, like, and I don't think you follow the XFL that much. So you know his potential probably because you see the highlights. But this guy used to be like consistently great in the XFL for weeks.
Yeah,
like the one game he had this year with 10 targets didn't surprise me.
No,
like
it does not help. This offense is so stacked. It's just there's so much mouths to feed. You can't feed them all.
Yep, that's all.
But
it
I
really
do
comes
think
down
at that
to.
point, like, even if it's at that point, it's probably his turn.
Yeah,
He's
wouldn't it be
coming off
funny
a
if
week,
they
didn't
have that
even
in the
play,
locker room? Like, whose turn is it this week?
Pearson was off last week. He's number one.
If I was to combine this season and last season in the XFL, I still think Pearson's more talented than Butler. Or is it Bucker? I'm getting confused with
Hakeem Butler.
Yeah, but
Hakeem Butler.
see, I knew that, but then you started talking about politics and Harrison Bucker, and it got me confused. But I do think he's the most talented receiver.
Oh, no, I'm the one screwing. Okay, it's fine.
Well,
You're good.
never mind. I was going to go there, but even I showed restraint. Go ahead, Evan.
My turn to pick? All right. So I am going to pick Kiki, but not Cootie. Kiki Chisholm, 6,200. Houston. I want to go opposite of Colburn here. Chisholm might appear to be all over the place with targets, but the fact that Reed Sinnett and Nolan Henderson like targeting him is a damn good sign to me. I like his price. I don't care if he doesn't fall into the end zone. Let's stick him in there. I think he's going to hover around the 20% ownership in the primary the UFL 2K first down contest, and I think that's fine. But I want to take advantage of that with Houston. You know, they're not that good of a team, but then again, Michigan's not that great of a defense either, and I think he'll be targeted as the top pass catcher.
I love when we take a wide receiver with a new quarterback, and there's always the chance that like that quarterback gets benched, because obviously if they believed in him in the first place, he would have started the season. He did not. So like we might get a 2 quarterback system, or even like you played bad in the first half, so we're going to go to a secondary guy. So I love it when you have a one-off guy that basically gets independent points that aren't associated to his quarterback. You rarely see it in the NFL. You see it a lot in this league, and I think this is one of the ways to get different.
Well, another receiver we haven't spoken about him, I don't think really at all this year, is Vinny Papele. He has no touchdowns this year. He gets a lot of targets. I know I've seen one of his touchdowns or he does have a couple touchdowns for some reason at the top of the stats. It doesn't show that. But I've seen a couple touchdowns. He gets a lot of red zone targets.
Yeah,
I feel he's either tackled short. I've seen 1 or 2 get called back. Unfortunate for the guy.
Honestly, it reminds me kind of an Antonio Brown kind of build, where it's like you think he's a slot guy because of his height and his size, but he's like weirdly reliable in the red zone.
Yeah. And it's weird that he doesn't fall into the end zone more with how much he's trusted, but
honestly, Donnie, I think that's more to do with the quarterback and the inconsistency and
it might be.
Yeah, the mistrust in the quarterback room has led him astray in the fact he doesn't even know who he's catching the ball from.
I mean, he's always getting at least 5 targets, it feels like. So, a guy that we haven't shown any love to this year, and I feel like that's a mistake by us.
It's true. Now he's at a price where I don't really like him. We probably should have played him a couple weeks ago. Evan, did we filibuster enough for you?
I'd say so, and I want to spend up a little bit here. I want to go a little bit unorthodox for the way we've been building these lineups here for the first flex slot. I want to play Jacob Sailors, because Jacob Sailors, even though he may not be the most efficient running back on the ground, and quite frankly, really none of the running backs in the UFL have been this year, it's been a guarantee over since week 3 that he can reach 10 fantasy points. I don't care if he doesn't fall into the end zone. I don't care if it's through just attempts on the ground or catches, but the St. Louis Battlehawks clearly like this guy, and for 9,800, I'm fine with spending that much to get a guaranteed 10 points.
That guaranteed points also, he's just so effective through the air.
Yeah.
And I do think you get different by having 2 running backs in your lineup, even if the ownership's a little bit higher. Not many people are playing 2 backs.
Can we just solve one? I think we have to pick a quarterback from either the St. Louis Arlington game.
I agree.
Given how much money we spent on those 2 positions, I just think like the only way they both get there is if you bring. Now it can be Luis Perez, who I think is a sneaky gov. Gov would have sent Luis Perez probably a Valentine's card by now, if you were going to. I mean, you've been sneaky loving this guy for weeks, but I don't.
I don't know about that, but like Last week, like he did have a pretty good game. Like he has always been sneaky. Like I get what you're saying about it, but like Martinez has been far and above the best guy, and I still kind of want to play him. But like, yes, I think Perez, like if this game is the one we're kind of saying, could be viable.
Well, yeah. The thing is,
But I think I'd rather have the St. Louis guy.
Yeah, I'd rather play Manny.
Yeah.
I really would.
Yeah. We do not have much salary left. I think you should just stick him in and see what that leaves us with. 36. Now there has been a lot of guys lately that have just randomly been showing up into cheap things that you've never heard of.
The most expensive guy we can take at this point is Cole Hikutini of Michigan Panthers, tight end.
Yep.
Now, I would lean somewhere more towards the Birmingham route in this end and say maybe they get their backups in. If this is the scenario that we're going with, I don't know if there's anyone we like there. Or
if you want my shot,
yeah. So you got.
I think I'd go the other way. Like we all agree, Michigan's probably beating Houston, that horrible team, Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Well, how about you take like Butler or even Bowman, maybe like just like as guys. I'd probably go Butler, but like Bowman has red zone threat ability.
I mean,
they're both cheap at 3,200. Butler's been consistent all year, a couple of targets in that.
For the price of Bowman, getting 2 or 3 targets is not too shabby for the price.
Well, why don't we just see?
So is there any other guy we got to consider here?
Well, Sutherland is a St. Louis guy.
I don't know if I want to massive game stack this, but
yeah,
like maybe
it's just a guy who correlates. He might get one of those touchdowns. See, I wish we had 3,800. That's where I'd like to be.
Well, we could go down off your defense.
No.
No.
Let's not get crazy. Let's not get crazy now.
Oh no. Let's not be. Let's just not
What is
go
Bowman
crazy.
looking
Yeah.
like? Can we see Bowman's player card?
Like he's a lot more inconsistent, but he seems to have red zone
He's got
usage.
the red zone usage to go point. That's
Yeah.
exactly what he is.
Show his game log lately.
He is the Mercedes Lewis of this team.
I mean, when's the last time he didn't get a target, though? You know?
That's why I would probably go Butler. He's good for like it seems 2 to 4 targets a game.
See, he's gotten targets.
Decent depth of target too. It's just, is he going to catch a touchdown and ceiling?
For the boomer bust aspect, I think I got to be with Donnie on this one and go Bowman. Because with the problem with Butler is that he's only really getting 2 fantasy points a game just with the one catch that
Butler's
he gets.
had 2 10-point games but he's
Bowman,
never had a 0.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I like to take my chances on a Bowman rather than Butler just because Butler just doesn't do enough with what he gets.
See, I would agree with that. Like that's why I threw both of them out. They're both the same price, same team. And if you think like Michigan's going to win, Houston's going to try. So like these guys are going to be in their game plan, even if it's just the tiniest bit.
I'm fine with either. I'm fine with a coin flip. I don't really care.
Logan, what do you think? Bowman? Butler?
I actually like Heath Williams here myself.
Williams?
Oh, Ratliff Williams.
I didn't even wait. Oh, I didn't even see him.
I've never heard of him.
He
got blanked last week, but
he's been quietly decent for the price. He doesn't seem to get really that. Yeah, he seems like just a short yardage guy for 2 catches.
Former Seahawk.
He's a former Seahawk. Yes, that's correct.
And he is facing Michigan's porous pass
very
defense.
small.
That is another one, yeah.
He's a very small guy.
Now, he was injured last week. That's why he saw no targets. but it was the only week he didn't see any targets.
But he is healthy, and he is expected to play.
Okay, we could go him. He's only 200 more.
So now we have 3 guys and 4 people to decide.
I don't want to go Sutherland.
Yeah. So is there any reason we would want more money? There's nothing else we would change about this lineup, right?
All we're trying to figure out is this last piece.
That's what I'm saying is like maybe that'd be the decision point. If like you're like, well, I need 300 to move off of Chisholm, or I need 300 to move off of Colburn, like no one like that.
I don't think we need to move off anybody at this time necessarily. I think there's nothing wrong with taking a shot on a Ratliff Williams or a Butler or a Bowman. It's just a matter of who do we want to commit to.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like unless you wanted to get up to Demario Davis, I think you could off of Pearson, because I do think that would probably be a slightly chalkier play. But Demario Davis has also been very good.
Versus Davis is resting already. Do you just say maybe Aitman tries to get some extra workload in, seeing so he's had a down year and they want to get him going?
I think Pearson needs to work more than Aitman does.
I agree.
It might be Pearson. I mean, but Aitman hasn't. He's been out he was out last week, and he hasn't looked like what we thought he was.
If Arlington isn't capable of competing with St. Louis, like if St. Louis blows out Arlington, which I could see happening, it's going to be Sailors getting the volume, which is why I'm glad we stuck him in.
Well, that's also unique too, because I don't think a lot of people will go with the 2 running back builds. That hasn't been the way most people are doing it. I don't really care what we do. I would prefer to shoot for upside though with one of these picks. I wouldn't just count on the touchdown. I would try to get targets.
I think they all have their own charm.
And Ratliff Williams, at least in quantity, is capable of getting more than 2 targets. It's just a matter of, do we think he's safe enough to take a chance on him?
Well, listen, here's what I feel about this point. There's no one here who's safe.
No.
So I'm playing for the ceiling anyway.
That's why I said just safe enough as far as we have the conviction.
Yeah. Interesting enough, though, who do you think's safe in the lineup? Just curious. Because this league has been very volatile already. I don't know if there's anyone truly safe. I think Colburn is probably the safest.
Colburn's the safest just because we know he's going to get at least 15 touches.
And then Manny Wilkins actually played kind of bad last week and still saw a lot of usage.
Speaking of bad, I forget his first name. Love? He had his first game last week. He was splitting snaps. His stats looked fine, 9 to 12, a touchdown, no picks.
Josh Love.
Yes, Josh Love. But he did not air that ball out once.
Yeah.
It was pure check down after check down.
No, he is very Alex Smith from what I remember. He got I forget the cup of coffee team he got a chance with, but he didn't come in until late third quarter in that preseason game. He's very Alex Smith to me. Nolan Henderson would be an interesting guy. Has some rushing upside. Kind of a more like Cam Newton style rusher where he's going to try to run over you more than he's going to try to, razzle and dazzle like a Lamar Jackson, but he does have some rushing ability as well. He's going to get the start this week.
I don't think we need to move down at quarterback at this point. I mean,
I'm just highlighting some plays. I was going to mention, though, I love the Battlehawks offensive idea. They go for it the most of anyone on the 4th down. I don't know, maybe that's a Dan Campbell reference, a Lions mentality. I'm used to it, but I like that aggressiveness, especially when it comes to, DK points, because that means, your quarterback's just going to touch the ball more.
Yeah. So I'm fine with leaving Ratliff Williams in the second flex if everybody else is okay with it. I like this lineup.
Yeah, I do too. I'll probably run something similar, but I will try to fit in Martinez myself. I know he'll be chalky, but he has shown just massive ceiling.
No, I might do the same. I might try to fit him in at one lot. I just like Manny so much. He made a lot of wiggle moves. I thought he could have scored at least another 10 points easy last week and left it on the field.
Who did you play in PGA?
Oh, I played Brian Harmon.
Ah, the Harman. Ah.
Yeah, and then I played a lot of like.
I should have went him over Homa in my lineup. I have Todd and Bradley. Ah.
Dallas is coming back if you guys aren't watching the game.
Let me check the score.
It is a 2-point game right now, 77-75. Dallas up. Or Dallas down.
Ooh, Towns.
Is
Bear.
there any other UFL takes?
No, I got some NFL stuff, though, that I want to ask Evan about.
Yeah, let's hear it.
Have you been paying
Questions.
attention to any Bears news?
Yes, absolutely.
How do you feel about these Caleb Williams things? You know, everyone's saying he's not doing very well. Any worry there, or are you just letting it ride?
No, I mean, it's May. I mean, it's OTAs right now. Like, Caleb Williams is going to be a rookie, and I've said this all along. I would not be surprised to see Caleb not even finish as a top 10 quarterback this year because he's a rookie in a brand new system with Shane Waldron as OC. He's going to have great weapons with him. The worry I have right now is, can Matt Eberflus prove that he's a winning coach and not blow 3 leads like he did last season, including one against your Lions, Logan?
I think that's the right opinion to start out, but and the Patriots are in a similar situation with Drake May, where they actually just seem to be content with letting Brissett start, which I think is the right decision there. It's different when Caleb has all these weapons around him, but
yeah, and Caleb has already been said that, like, the scouts and the coaches have been saying that he looks NFL ready, so he is going to start week 1 because there's a lot of Patrick Mahomes comparisons. So I look forward to seeing it. This would be unprecedented in Bears history.
yeah, well, draft busts aren't unprecedented though, so maybe it will be about the same, you know?
But I honestly think you got to swing like that, though. Like, that's just how I take rips. Like a baseball analysis is as about as old as the sport itself. But that's honestly how I think you should draft. You should draft for the upside, not the downside bust. Like, I like the Ryan Leaf kind of idea where it's like you're shooting for the, hey, he could be the next one. You don't want to just draft like a mediocre, Ryan Fitzpatrick, or a mediocre, maybe borderline guy, in my opinion. You want to draft the high upside guy, and then if you got to settle for a Jimmy G later on, and your salary saving kind of moment to save your career, that's another thing. But I don't know. I've always loved the idea that you just shoot high for quarterback.
Yeah, quarterback, I agree. Never be content at quarterback. If you are stuck in quarterback purgatory, that is a death sentence for your organization.
But I don't know. I've always thought that with any position, though, like whoever your best available is, like outside of maybe like kicking and special teams, like there's exceptions, but I just feel like you should go for it. So I don't know, maybe Brad Holmes is the right guy for me because like he was a believer in Jahmyr Gibbs because of his receiving upside, and he was proven right so far. Another thing I'll mention just quickly, and then I get over to Gov or whoever else, but we do this thing where it's like, oh, after 1 year, I can tell you if Caleb Williams is going to be good. Like he might be great his first year and then suck the rest of his career, or like I still think Bryce Young will be better than CJ Stroud. Obviously, I'm well aware of that he's behind in the race, but the race isn't over after one season. Like that's what's weird to me is there's just a lot that goes into NFL that doesn't get covered after that initial rash reaction.
Who the fuck did Bryce Young have to work with, though, right, Gov?
I mean, it's true. That's my point this year. Like they have at least started to build around him correctly.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Like CJ Stroud got that. Like year 1, they drafted like Tank Dell. They drafted stuff for him to succeed.
Yeah. And now we've done the same thing for Caleb
Williams. They
Williams.
went and signed Dalton Schultz, so he had a tight end. Like they got him stuff that you need to succeed.
Yep, and we just did the same thing with a veteran with Gerald Everett to go with Cole Kmet. We got Romo Dunze to go with Keenan Allen and DJ Moore. So Caleb Williams already has the weapons he needs off the bat to succeed. And hallelujah, Cody fucking Whitehair is gone from our offensive line. So we should at least have a left guard that doesn't lose his battle every fucking 2 snaps.
Well,
yeah, The Chiefs had a guy who jumped every other play. It didn't matter.
That's the Chiefs, though. The refs just look the other way when it's the Chiefs.
No, see, no, not doing it. I'm not taking your bait.
You were partially doing it, though.
I was for a second. The media sucks.
I set him up. He
sucks.
spiked it down. You took it. Oh,
The media sucks.
nice.
I hate the media. I can't wait to be a part of that.
I want to talk about another B word, and it's betting and gambling. I think it allows smarter fans. I really do, because people like us understand expected value, and so that way we're not competing with, hey, who's better, this guy, Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, or who's better, Bryce Young or CJ Stroud. We're saying, hey, where are they right now in their career? Where do I think they could be? And then we're always trying to forecast that game. That's what a salary game is on DK. You're trying to outsmart the salary for that current week. And I just feel like a lot of people have declared either they are a believer or they think, like, I don't like that mindset. And I really enjoy this idea of like, hey, I don't have to be right, 5 weeks from now. I can just take it week by week. And I think we should do that more with quarterbacks, to go full circle again with Evans thing. I think you're taking the Williams approach the right way. It's week by week. Expect a lot from him, but if you don't get it, it's okay.
Well, and the big thing is, as long as he's improving, I really don't care.
Mm-hmm.
If you start to plateau, that's when I'm having a little bit of an issue. But I don't think.
Well, even if he plateaus temporarily, that's okay too, as long as eventually he gets better. Because everybody's going to have their struggle points where they just have to figure it out after like 6 weeks of just staying the same, right?
But yeah, when I say plateau, I mean it for a long time. Like a good example, I guess, would be Alex Smith, where he just, there was a ceiling that he absolutely hit. Jared Garoppolo hit his ceiling very early on. And you can make your career off that, for sure. You can make your money. But we're looking for a franchise quarterback. Their Cowboys have been stuck in quarterback purgatory for, when was Romo drafted? I mean, geez, it's been forever. And they are content with that. They're content with being that team that loses in the first round of the playoffs because it's keeping them relevant.
I mean, having Mike McCarthy as your head coach is not helping either, in addition to having Jerry Jones as your fucking GM owner.
Jerry Jones cares about relevancy, not about... He's more scared of being, a nobody than he is of winning a champion.
That's basically the way to summarize it, yeah.
And sometimes you have to have adjustable expectations. Like a guy like Chad Henne was never a caliber starter where you would be excited if he was your quarterback, but he proved that over time he must have been valuable to NFL locker rooms because he stuck around far past most quarterbacks in his draft class. So like, it's not just the instantaneous what can you do for me on the field, it's what you give to the whole organization. That's why off the field stuff really does matter. Gov talked about golf a little bit. I do have an interesting golf take, and I would like to end the show on it, unless you guys had something else. But
I'm fine ending it on golf.
I just have NBA to watch, so I've been having that in the background.
I promise.
Fourth quarter of that. We got to be off before the start of the fourth quarter.
It's already started.
No, God.
Okay,
Oh, God, I'm behind. Okay, let's make it quick, Logan.
We'll tee this up, but I did want to say this isn't so much a golf take, so I think Donnie and Evan can participate. This is more about how like the mainstream media takes an approach on betting and just turns it terrible. So I'll let them explain, but here we go.
For a second, Steph, did you end up seeing any of the ESPN bet one?
I did not. I felt like I knew I was not going to be a fan of it, and then was hoping to maybe hear feedback from other people, but I did not tune in.
Matt, did you watch any of it?
I didn't. I just saw some like funny tweets about it, so I followed it that way.
So I ended up getting a copy of it and watched a lot of it this afternoon just to get a sense of it. Because I feel like I'm very highly invested in trying to make something like this work, although no one is asking me to try to do this. But I have ideas. I thought I want to brainstorm with you guys for a second. What they did predominantly was like follow around a group and bet like, are they going to hit the fairway? Are they going to hit, like if they're in the bunker, are they going to make bogey or worse, whatever it might be. But here's the sneaky thing. And I've talked to a lot of executives. I've talked to a lot of people even at gambling companies. And it does seem like a lot of the old heads, the executives, whatever it might be, even at the PGA Tour the PGA Tour broadcasting or at ESPN, the people that I've talked to, they're all really obsessed with micro betting. And I understand why. You can just say the more micro bets that you make, the more vig that your sports book is going to make. It makes a ton of sense in terms of making money. But Matt, you know a lot of people who bet. Steph, you know a lot of people who bet. Do you really think there's that many people micro betting, like hole by hole, shot by shot? I just don't think that people bet that way.
Every time I've like tried to look at things like that, I'm always like, who the fuck is betting? Can so and so make the fairway at -140? Nobody is betting this. Like, what? They should be dedicated feeds to, like, obviously pre-tournament odds and how they're moving throughout. The guy makes a birdie or a bogey and live odds. Like, this guy's entering a par 5, right? His odds might go skyrocket after he makes a birdie here. Like, people actually know about betting. I guess that is what I'm asking for.
Yeah.
Yeah, Steph. Like, do you see it, Steph?
I feel like it takes away a lot from like the broadcast itself too. Like when you're going to try and bet these things, you're kind of doing them on a whim at that point because you're not sitting down and trying to do all this research. It's like you're trying to pay attention, watch the tournament. So that micro betting is an interesting approach for golf, at least.
It makes more sense than a lot of sports only because there's time to do it. So you hit your shot into the fairway, all of a sudden it's like, hey, are they going to make birdie on this hole? Are they going to make par on this hole? And you have actually time to contemplate it. It's not like betting pass or run in football, like on play-by-play. And even some of the delays end up doing that. So I just don't think it's going to be a popular market. And if you tailor a broadcast around, hey, I'm going to bet Tiger to hit the fairway here, it's like, that's great. I give a fuck about your bets. I care about my bets. So that they've lost that element of it as well. And if you talk to anyone who bets on golf, and it just first thing that pops to mind, Steph, you first. What's the first thing that people who bet on golf complain the most about coverage?
Do you have any idea, Gov? If you haven't seen this clip, I'd like you to play along.
No, I no idea. I have not seen the clip.
It'll make so much sense in here in a second. Here we go.
Oh, I feel like people complain so much about everything.
What do you hate about it, Ben?
I don't even know how to answer that.
Matt?
So much.
They want to see more golf shots. They're guys.
More golf shots, right?
Yeah.
So that's the actual gambling feed, isn't it? It's not let's follow around 3 guys and see 3 shots every 10 minutes. It's let's show more stuff. That's the gambling broadcast doesn't need to be discernibly different than the regular broadcast. Just show fucking more stuff.
It's so horrible. It's so bad.
Like that's it.
That's true.
All. Like you don't need people on there to talk. Like have the odds up next to the leaderboard. That's great. The people doing the broadcast can reference what they are, but it's not like, oh my God, on Thursday, Xander short-sided himself. Well, he went from 16-1 to 18-1. You got to jump on that now. Like no one fucking bets that way.
Yeah.
I think the way to do it too is like
for a second,
there's such an entertainment piece that's missing from the broadcast. Like no one's fucking listening to what it's horrible. Like
so that just to get this clear, they were just saying whether they were going to bet on something.
So basically, what ESPN did was they sold that you were getting a Peyton Manning-like experience. You were getting a watch.
I know that. Yeah, I knew about this.
But here's what they did, and if it wasn't clear, so that's why I think like you and Evan have an interesting perspective here because you can like broaden it. Like if they were to do this in the NFL, they just basically said, "Hey, we're going to show you Tiger Woods." And you can bet on Tiger Woods outcomes. That was the whole broadcast.
But were the broadcasters saying like, "Oh, to actually jump on something" or anything like that, or no? They were.
But that's all they were doing was they were following around and then like having a watch along, but then betting on the outcome of like, do you think Tiger Woods will have a par or a birdie on this hole?
See.
And then they would go to hole 15 and they would do the same thing.
I don't know if this is a complaint that many people are making, but I feel like that's just promoting the old school idea of betting is for a bunch of degenerates of, they're not going to think about it. They're just going to put in senseless. Most of these people betting are high thinking people.
Mm-hmm.
Senseless betting just throwing money randomly because it odd changed like that every single time. That's silly. I know they're talking about it already. It's senseless and everything, but to promote like completely not what the whole community is, seems crazy to me. And when most of the community says, bet smartly, bet what you can afford, all that, that's what people want to listen to when you're not, it's just that seems like more feeding into your corporate money that's all you care about is getting money off these people.
To Gov's point, I'll swing it over to Evan here in a second, but that's what we want. We want gamification. Why are we playing, Manny Wilkins this weekend, UFL? Why are we doing this? We don't want to, hey, let's pick a marquee, guy like a Tom Brady in the NFL and just like, hey, do you think Tom Brady will get a completion on first down in the first quarter in the first 5 minutes? Like, no one wants that. But go ahead, Evan.
Well, so the only question I have at this point, based on the topic being discussed, and I'll preface this with saying that I don't know shit about betting on golf because I've never done it, and I don't even keep up with any of the professional golf leagues at the moment. But how is betting on just 3 golfers or just trying to bet on who's gonna hit hole 3 on the fairway any worse than the Super Bowl bets that we were making 3.5 months ago, in which we were betting on, or capable of betting on, what color is the victory Gatorade going to be, and how long is the national anthem going to last, and so on and so forth.
But that's something we make fun of as a community. Like, it is silly.
But that's my question: is that how are these golf examples any worse?
No, I think,
Well, to be fair, I would equate these golf examples more to like making a halftime bet. Like, okay, this team's down at half. I'm going to bet over on yards because I know they're going to throw or something like that. Like, that's what I would equate this. It's just golf has that every hole.
Yeah.
As these guys showed, it's slow enough. You could follow a golfer on a hole and like bet it hole to hole.
Yeah.
But like their point, like if you're going to do that, then the Peyton Manning experience of watching one thing doesn't really help. It's like you do the Manning cast on Monday Night Football because it's the only thing going. You wouldn't do the Manning cast for a random 1:00 game.
But like
while 7 other games are going on.
The other point of that is like, I could stomach it for a halftime show for NFL. Like, if ESPN wanted to do that for a halftime show on a Sunday and go through all these games and what's the odds on stuff, I could do that for 15 or so minutes. But this is just constant shoving it down your throat of, hey, we want your money.
I think because you don't know golf though, Evan, I think I know what you're getting at. And the problem is, and they were talking about it deeper here with ESPN, is ESPN sold it as a betting show, like a golf betting show. And Gov knows this, and maybe even Donnie knows it. There's so many bets in golf. There's matchup bets. There's top 20 bets. There's outright bets. So you have the whole list of golfers, and then you pick the winner. There are so many different ways of betting, but instead they took this one small element of golf betting and then hyper-focused it to the point that it became, it would be like, to your point about the Super Bowl, right? When you said, making fun of the Gatorade colors and stuff like that. It would be like if they sold an NFL betting show but only focused on the novelty props and didn't talk about who was going to win the game. They didn't talk about the spread. They didn't talk about, Patrick Mahomes passing yards. They acted like the only bets that were available were the novelties. That's basically what ESPN did.
And the one thing I know about a network like an ESPN is that they wouldn't have done that if it wasn't a sure thing to make money for the product. They're not going to just put that out there if nobody really gave a shit. So clearly, somebody, a good enough amount of people do care enough to where somebody at ESPN was like, okay, we got to air it like this.
And I think ESPN's just out of touch now, Evan. I really do.
I don't entirely agree with that. I think they at least have an idea of what they should broadcast that's at least going to get enough attention on the product.
No, they had the right idea. They just executed it terribly.
Correct, Donnie.
Execution's another thing, though. I mean, maybe they sucked at broadcasting it, but I don't think the idea behind it was wrong.
No, it wasn't. I was excited for it. I went to watch it, and you needed ESPN. You needed a cable subscription to watch it. You couldn't even watch it with ESPN Plus. And then they hyper focused it on Tiger Woods instead of the whole betting card. Like it would be like saying, hey, here's an NFL betting show. Oh, but we're only going to cover it for Sunday Night Football. Tune in at 8:30. but you run it as a betting show at 1 o'clock. And you're like,
ESPN Plus is their big money cash cow. Like, how do you forget to use ESPN Plus though?
Now, I want to be honest with you. ESPN Plus is great for golf. They have tons of matchups and tons of groups to follow. It's great. But that one specific outlet of this gambling show was not available on the app. Go ahead. I know you want to watch the end of the
I was about to say, I'm going to be getting the game on here shortly.
Do you have any thoughts?
Like, I do think they need to do it better, but I did not watch it personally.
Yeah. I hope it improves, to be honest. I mean, but they got to cover that. Like, you can't sell a betting show and then be so hyper-focused.
Exactly. Like a betting show. I agree with what they're saying. Like, if you're doing a betting show, you got to show everyone on the course at some point.
I just want to say, I could be wrong. Aren't most people who are betting on golf and stuff going to do parlays anyway? Like, why are we fixating on this one person when it's probably going to be a parlay they're betting?
I mean, golf is a very rich sport, so they do have a lot of markets to get involved in because they do see. I mean, you can miss the cut. You can bet so much stuff. But like I said, that was the problem. It would honestly be like just picking a marquee NFL game and the Sunday slate and pretending like that was the only game on for the week. It was such a bizarre thing. So I didn't want to hit on that. It was a great concept, just executed poorly. Speaking of execution, I know the beginning of the show wasn't great, but if you did like the end of it, we are coming to the end. Like and subscribe. We are still one of the more productive UFL shows. We are producing still weekly content where a lot of podcasts and leagues are not. So if you're just here for that, you're still going to get that. We'll come back with a review show. Evan was out of town. There was some family stuff going on, so we couldn't make it work. We want to give you the most productive show possible when we are here. With that being said, we're just over an hour talking about production and keeping things high and tight. Good night, guys. Have a good one.
Night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Peace out, everyone.